So yeah, I finally went up to High Hrothgar, and well, you know that High Hrothgar, and the mountains and the stairs. The place that everyone talks about, but is scared of, and ancient and beyond all mortal understanding and all that whatnot. But yes, I made the climb. I froze half to death, and I got yelled at by a mountain at one point. But I just want to say up front, that I do not understand how this place gets, any good reputation. Because look, I'm not here to disrespect religious traditions and all that, and ancient monistic orders and all that, but, or, whatever spiritual branding that they are going for in this era. But if we're being honest right now, the Greybeards are running the most passive aggressive spiritual operation in all of Skyrim, if you're asking me. But let's start with the location, first and for all. High Hrothgar is built on the throat of the world, the tallest mountain of Tamriel, which already tells you something about the vibes of the place. This is not a place designed for visitors. This is a place designed to make you, regret your curiosity. 7,000 steps. No railing or anything, or no shelter along the way. No real signa like beyond, good luck. Just you, the wind, the creeping realization that if enlightenment requires hypothermia, maybe the gods could have workshopped that a little bit. And sure, pilgrims make the journey and all of that, and it's nice for them, but the Greybeards encourage it. They're sometimes deeply funny about these spiritual orders that they preach. Humility while living somewhere that requires you to almost die just to ask a question. By the time you get up there, you're not spiritually enlightened or open, you're just exhausted and delirious. You'd agree with almost anything they say to you at the top. And, when you do finally come up to them and you're there, it's just silence. There's no welcomes, no greetings, no, oh my god, you made it. Just four old men staring at you like you're late to some meeting you didn't even get an invite to. And this is where the Greybeards live, or should I say exist. It's hard to tell, This place feels like a monastery. This place feels less like a monastery and more like some loading screen that never finished rendering properly. For those who don't know, the Greybeards are an ancient order of monks devoted to the way of the voice, which sounds peaceful until you realize that their entire thing is just that they're so powerful that they can't, speak normally without crushing structural damage. This is not metaphorical, by the way. That's just the hazard of their work environment, where conversation is a potential war crime all the time. They follow the teachings of Jürgen Windcaller, and who, after watching an entire armies use the Thum as a blunt instrument, decided that maybe yelling people to death wasn't spiritually all that healthy. Which, is fair. Jürgen has a point over there. But Jürgen came to this conclusion after a very public, very embarrassing military defeat. And instead of doubling down on rewriting history like most leaders do, he did quite the opposite. He said, actually, we lost because we were wrong. The voice shouldn't be used for domination. It should be used for understanding and worship and restraint. Which is incredible wisdom for the most galaxy brain cope in Nordic history. And to his credit, he proved his point. Jürgen let people attack him for days while he just kind of stood there, observing everything without shouting back. No Thum or no retaliation at all. Just some understanding until everyone collectively agreed that this man was either enlightened or unhinged. So the Greybeards, formed around that philosophy. No conquest or politics or anything, no interference from the outside, just contemplation, restraint, and extremely loud chanting with the occasional avalanche. But now, here's the thing that nobody really talks about. These guys absolutely know what's going on in the world. They're not that isolated, they're just ignorant. They tuned in on a level most people can't even, comprehend. They can hear when a dragonborn is, born, and they can feel the disturbance in the fabric of reality itself. They're basically living seismic instruments for metaphysical nonsense wumbo jumbo. And yet, for centuries, their response to most world-ending events has to be, let's stand on this mountain and hum very aggressively. Like, when dragons come back, this is not subtle at all. Dragons aren't a rumor or anything. They're not theoretical. Cities are actively burning. People are dying. Alduin is very much doing Alduin things. And Greybeard's response is, yes, this is concerning. Please climb this mountain. We will speak to you. Eventually. Not urgently or anything, or proactively. No, you just... Eventually. They're not villains in all this, I'm not saying that. But they are frustrating in a very specific, institutionalized way. The kind where they're technically right about all this, but you also want to just shake them up a little bit. High Hrothgar itself reflects this perfectly. It's massive, cold, and solemn in a way that feels almost intentional, like the warmth itself has just left all of them alone. No sense that people are meant to, stay longer than necessary. It feels less like a home for these people and more like a waiting room for some kind of grand revelation that just refuses to arrive on schedule. And the Greybeards themselves don't help their own argument. Arngeir, holy shit, these names. Arngeir does all the talking. Literally all of it. He's like the customer service, public relation, and crisis management, as well as a spiritual guidance rolled into one tired Nord. The others just kind of stand there, watching, occasionally shouting so hard that the walls vibrate, but they're reminding you that they could end this conversation whenever they feel like it. It's like being in a meeting where just this one guy explains everything politely while the rest in the room just radiates judgment all the time. And when they do speak, it's slow and measured and heavy with implication. Every sentence feels like it's quietly asking why you haven't already figured this all out on your own. They'll teach you the shouts, sure, but only after making it very clear that enjoying them would be a mistake. There is no excitement here at all, only responsibility, restraint, and the crushing weight of being chosen and resented for it at the same time. And historically this all tracks, because the Greybeards didn't intervene during the Dragon Wars directly. They didn't march against any tyrants, they didn't guide any emperors. Their entire legacy is just built on restraint, which sounds noble until you realize restraint can also mean letting things burn while you stay clean. They believe the voice is sacred, and mortals abusing this power leads to catastrophe, and well, they're not wrong about that. The tomb has been used to dominate and enslave people, annihilate entire races, or like annihilate entire races, what am I even saying? Annihilate on a massive scale. But the solution they landed on was just withdrawal, completely disengaging from the world around them and step away, hoping it sorts itself out. Which brings us to, the Dragonborn, because the Dragonborn breaks that entire system. They have to engage now. Their belief says that the Dragonborn is chosen by the gods. Their practice says that the voice should not be used lightly, and suddenly there's a walking contradiction standing in their main hall, accidentally shouting cups off all the tables. So they compromise, be it a little badly, but they teach you slowly. They guide you reluctantly. They help to save the world, but only after making sure you've had long internal monologue about, whether you deserve it or not. It's like asking fire safety committee to help during an active volcano eruption, and they respond by handing you some pamphlet about what to do in emergencies. After spending time there, you really feel it. The Greybeards aren't evil at all. They're not incompetent either. They're just trapped by their own philosophy on a mountain, and they build an entire identity around withdrawal, and the world keeps knocking on their door, asking for help. They just don't know how to give it without breaking their own rules. High Hrothgar feels like that tension turned into architecture. You know, beautiful and ancient and powerful. And completely disconnected from the rest of Skyrim. So yeah, if you end up staying a bit, listen, learn, not respectively to those men silently judging you while they haven't spoken a normal word in decades. And leave. Because as impressive as the Greybeards are, you know, as important as their history is, I don't think this is a place meant to be lived in. It's a place meant to be visited and respected, and then exited before the mountain decides you're overstaying your philosophical welcome. Anyway, yeah, that's my review, I think. Great acoustics, terrible accessibility, would not shout again.